Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Leadership Greater Washington Frontline Conversation. Today, we are honored to have with us Victor Hoskins, Mr. Economic Development in Washington, Maryland, and Virginia. He is the President and CEO of the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. But prior to that, he had been an economic development leader for the state of Maryland, for Prince George County, for Arlington County, for the district. I think the only jurisdiction you haven't had, Victor, is Montgomery County. So we're waiting for you over here to come. So how are you? How's your health? How's COVID treating you and your family?
I am doing fantastic. My health is fine. My wife's health is fine. We've had like a lot of people, we've been, making this transition to working from home, which has been really, an interesting proposition in and of itself. And we actually had some family members catch COVID-19. So that's been a challenge. The fortunate thing is they've recovered.
It is very fortunate. Good to hear that, Victor. And your staff, how are they doing? How
my team,
this 8 months away from work, away from the office?
Yeah. We were very concerned when we went, to this really telework framework. We went in 48 hours. We went from about 10% telework to 100% telework, and in that you have a lot of complications. And you got to get the right technology to everybody. People have to improve their Wi-Fi, and so systems will operate. And then how do you supervise, monitor, direct, manage staff? All of these things have been things that we've been able to work on. But they're doing well right now. We had a very productive year. As a matter of fact, we had one of the best years in the history of the organization. And I attribute that a lot to them not losing their focus. And this is one of the things that we talk about all the time is focus. And I try to do my best to keep them focused. We now have a Monday morning call where we have all of our international offices on, Bangalore, Berlin, London, Mumbai, Seoul, Korea, Tel Aviv, and we even have our California office on. In addition to that, all the rest of the staff. So we're all together every Monday morning. We go over ops, HR, marketing, key issues. And that has really helped us because we actually are hearing from our international offices about what's going on overseas. And I think that people feel more connected. So I think the team is doing well because they feel connected. They're doing well because they feel like they're doing things that are important. So I think that's really, really incredibly important for them to keep that tone.
So how was it when you first went remote? What caused you to do that? And what were some of those challenges that you?
Yeah. Well, what caused us to do it was on March 7th, we found out that one of our employees had been to a conference and had a potential exposure. And when we found that out, he had been back to the office, unfortunately. So we had the office deep cleaned. We were going to stay away for a week. And during that time, everyone had to get, technology. So that was a bit of a wild transition. But I think the thing that really concerned us the most was health. We didn't want people to be exposed because we have some people on our staff who have chronic conditions. And some people on staff had people at home that might have been exposed. So really getting that done, it was very intense. I would say the first 3 weeks, there was a lot of getting used to doing the Zoom and really how do you report in a productive way, keeping up with emails because the emails exploded. I mean, because it was no longer walk down the hall and have a short conversation. Or, Doug, in the morning, you get a cup of coffee and you run into Debbie and you talk about something. So you don't write the email. I mean, I had no idea so many emails had remained unwritten. and then everyone got this deluge. So we had to figure out not just how to get the technology in place and get the working together in place. How do you collaborate? But we had to get how do you deal with the volume? So we created, we had conversations with our ops person about like what were the best practices out there? Things like, creating a time of focus on your calendar. So we have days where all of us have days where we have light days, where we actually try to have no appointments or few appointments, where we catch up on our emails, where we do our deep thinking, where we do our writing, We don't take, we don't do Zoom calls. We may do a phone call. But all of us have that in our schedules now. So I think that it was really kind of getting adjusted to this new way of working. After 3 months, it seems like we've been doing it forever. So it feels natural now.
So what are your plans when the vaccine is out and people are vaccinated and they can come back to the office? Are you going to continue remotely, or are you going to bring everybody back, or what do you think you're going to do?
Well, I will say this, Doug, and I can't wait to get back. so there are a group of us that can't wait.
That's you, Victor. That's you. I can understand that. That's
so I think the way that it's been played out, and we've been surveying our staff a lot. We've done a number of surveys. We did one 3 months in, 6 months in, and we just did one recently. And basically, we are asking people, would they like to, be 100% telework, or 80% telework, or 50% telework? And roughly the way it's working out for our team is that we're pretty much expecting about 20% of our staff to be telework most of the time, maybe only 1 day in the office a week. And then that other 80% is going to be broken into some people 3 days, some people 5 days. And we're letting people adjust it so that it will fit their lifestyle. Because we do have some young people on our staff who have young children. So there's this complexity of childcare. We do have some people on our staff who are caretakers for their parents who are older, maybe in the 80s or 90s, and they need a lot of attention. So we're creating a lot of flexibility. So I think that for us, it's, making sure that as the vaccine is distributed, that we actually do kind of a transition into the office. So I think it's not going to be a start, just automatically back to the office. I think it's going to be a transition time, because and that transition may be, let's say the distribution of the vaccine starts in January. That transition may last until this time next year. It may be almost a year of transition, going to the point where I feel like we will be at our optimum level of people in the office, production of work getting done, and the collaboration, because you do lose something with this technology.
So have you set a tentative date of January to start people coming back, or you're just still playing it by ear as to when the vaccine's out and all that?
So because a big part of our work is commercial office markets, we see a lot of office market surveys, by the way. And we've heard things from 100%, no one's going to be in office anymore, to, no one's going to ever work from home again because they hate it so much. Because not everybody loves working from home. I'm telling you, you love this virtual office. Isn't it lovely? I get to build one every week. But when I take this down, that's my kitchen back there. I mean, it's really not, for me, not the optimal. So I think that the way that we're looking at it is probably at Q1, we'll have maybe 10 to 20% of our staff transition back into the office. And that's for safety reasons, because we have to keep the social distancing. Not everybody will be vaccinated. They really are starting with the frontline workers first, then the other medical support staff, then the vulnerable, and then the regular workforce. So we're kind of down the line when you think about it on the distribution of the vaccine. So I'm not expecting it myself to be available maybe till April or May. And if that's the case, that means that only a certain percentage of my people can go back. So I'm expecting somewhere between 20 and 40% to be back in the office by June. And then we will probably by this time next fall reach that equilibrium where we have maybe 25% telework, and then the other 75%, some degree of telework and working from the office.
That's assuming that the best case projections of the vaccine are going to take place. I mean, that's the big unknown out there. So.
Yeah.
So you mentioned commercial real estate, and we're hearing the same thing. Our office is downsizing to one office now, and we're just going to share and come in and out, and really not go back probably till next summer at the earliest, and then we'll still be working mostly from home. So what are your thoughts on the commercial offices? I keep reading that banks are now concerned about companies defaulting on their loans because the space is such an uproar.
Yeah. So the commercial office market is, we have been working with a lot of research professionals from Accenture and from McKinsey, from CBRE, JLL. So we've been working with those research groups. And this is the picture that we're seeing. And I'll be broad strokes on this. I'll be more conceptual on this. Doug, people were saying, we'll never go back to the office. Well, that's just not going to happen. That's just not true. Okay. It's sort of like after 9/11, we're never going to build another tall building. Well, you know what? More tall buildings were built after 9/11 than ever before in the history of man. After 9/11, I'm not going to fly on a plane again. Excuse me, more airplane miles, more passenger miles were clocked before COVID-19 after 9/11 than ever before the history of man. So obviously, what we emotionally respond to is not going to be the reality. So we've been looking at the data, and this is what the data is telling us. There are a couple of bifurcations in the market. 50,000 square feet and above is acting very differently from 50,000 square feet and below. Those companies are acting very differently. And then 20,000 square feet and below is acting differently from 50,000 and below. What's going on are these companies are making long-term and short-term decisions very differently. For example, let's talk about the big tech companies, the FANG. Okay, let's talk about the FANG companies. They have so much capital available, they're actually taking advantage of an opportunity. What did Microsoft just do in May? They signed a 400,000 square foot 20-year lease. Who signs a 400,000 square foot 20-year lease in COVID? Well, a company that knows that this is an opportunity. This is a buying opportunity for them. They, by the way, just increased that 400,000 square feet to 445,000 square feet. Now, that's Microsoft. Right?
Victor, just one. Is that in Fairfax or Arlington? Which county are we talking about?
Oh, Fairfax.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Fairfax. So let me. So just to, and I'm just going to talk about Fairfax companies just because I need
perfect.
to illustrate. So we have another company. I won't mention the company because they're downsizing. They are 25,000 square feet. They're dropping 5,000 square feet. Okay, and they put it on the sublease market, and they put it on the sublease market because in 2 years that lease is gone. Well, if you are an office user and you have 2 years left on your lease, and you all of a sudden are in a situation where you can telework employees, you will do it because it makes sense for you, unless you're growing. Well, the reason I don't want to mention that company's name is because they're not growing. They're pretty much stable. They make incremental growth, but they don't have any big contracts where they're exploding in growth. So you gotta really break the market up into pieces to know what the behavior is. You're a small organization. You're going, oh, we're going to work from one location. Listen to this. This is my office, okay? So our lease is up in a couple of years. So we were actually looking for new space. Now at this point, we probably won't get new space. Why? Because we happen to have a lot of space. And we were going to go into the new model of, the bench seats and, and the open kitchen and all of that. But we're not doing that now. We're moving in a whole nother direction. We're thinking of the health of our employees because of COVID. That's going to be a part. You need the spacing. We actually are in the right kind of space. And for us, the telework component is going to keep us from getting more space. So we may have had to get more space because of COVID-19, but because of the telework component, 25% of our staff will not even be in the office, or they only come in intermittently. So think about this. I'm kind of creating all of a sudden, I'm even keel. I'm at an even keel. I'm not shrinking my footprint. I'm not raising my footprint. I'm on even. You just shrank yours. Microsoft just increased theirs. All of these dynamics are working out in the market where it really depends on the company. Let me tell you the advantage of suburbs right now. Suburbs are getting the benefit, and we've already seen this in the sublease market, of renting their Class B office space. Because instead of getting more Class A office space in a city center like New York, they're going, let's put a hub office in Long Island for our 500 employees that live there. So they don't have to drive in every day or take the train in every day. They can work from there every day. And by the way, that's cheap space. So they get that cheap space out there. The rents in New York may be $100 a foot. The rents in Long Island are $40 a foot. That's a $60 a foot delta. They win. So this is playing out really in all kind of ways, in ways that we never expect. But David Rubenstein said the other day on a presentation with the DMV group, that task force, he said if I had spoken to you 3 months ago, everything that I would have told you 3 months ago would have been wrong. So Doug, I'm going to tell you like David Rubenstein, look, everything I'm telling you right now may be wrong. But that's
So
what I know right now.
what's it been like? What's it been like over the last year? You said you've had a very productive year, but how different it is now to sort of do your job, to market your county, market the region in these times of COVID, and how has that impacted your workforce?
Yeah. Well, we know we used to get the majority of our leads. So we about 66%, about 2/3 of our time, and this is true of all economic development agencies. 2/3 of your time are spent with existing businesses. That is it. That's where you spend you only spend 1/3 outside the market. So our outside the market activities have basically been turned into virtual. That is much harder to get leads that way. And it's much harder to develop relationships that way. We've been very fortunate. We had a pretty healthy pipeline before COVID, thank God. And we are making sure that we are keeping those relationships fresh and working on those. But it has been very hard. Think about this. We've had no face-to-face lunches, no conferences where we meet new people. We haven't set up our booth anywhere. We're not handing out collateral materials. I mean, listen, all of that is no mileage. There's no mileage. My team has filed for no mileage for the last 8 months. Doug, that means they're not going to see them. They're actually doing everything on Zoom. Now I have some big Zoom bills, but but that you got to expect that. You got to pay for something. But you can see how the dynamics have changed quite a bit. And to be honest with you, all of my people are feeling the same way. They miss the human interaction. They miss the contact directly with people. Whenever we had a ribbon cutting the other day, they were fighting over who was going to go. Okay, we had a tour, and by the way, all masked up, gloves on, some of them. We had a tour the other day for a client. Same thing. People fall over themselves trying to get out there because honestly, I think we all miss it. So it's changed the nature of our business, but we do see that this is a temporary adjustment and a transition period, and we're all looking forward to maybe in the late spring, early summer, we can get back to our regular method for collecting leads. But getting new leads is difficult.
You mentioned a number of foreign cities in other countries where you have staff. How has COVID affected them? How are they doing? How are they?
So our staff
in your California office as well.
Yeah. So our staff in India they're like us. They're challenged like the United States. Both Mumbai and Bangalore, high infection rates, a lot out there. It's very difficult, to operate. Seoul, Korea, they had 100 cases in a month. We just had 145,000 cases yesterday. I mean, they have it under control, and they actually are allowing people to meet. So our Korean, representative is doing very well right now. Our Germany office and our Tel Aviv office, they both were doing very well until recently. So really the last 3 months is really accelerated. Maybe, I don't know, because they opened up too soon or opened up not the way they had expected. And it's really caused a lot of challenges for them, a lot of challenges.
In your California office, how's that?
Oh, the California office, poor things. I mean, okay, California, I have people, they have been hit by the fires. One of them had an earthquake. The pandemic. I mean, it's like, they're waiting for, listen, the pandemic is the plague. So I think they're just waiting for the frogs. I think that's the next thing that California is going to hit. But it has been really rough on California. And I have, my mom lives out there. She's in her 90s. She basically has been, really protected by my family. We have a bubble around her. But they're doing things like that, keeping their vulnerable, in these bubbles where only certain people get to see them, and they have to have been tested. It's really procedurally, it's really tough. And they can't gather more than 10 people together in California right now, no more than 10. So it really is, it's really tough, especially with all that good weather they have. Once the fire smoke goes away, they're back to the good, beautiful weather. Yeah, right, exactly.
Let's hope it goes away and they
Yeah,
do get back to
yeah.
that weather. It's been extraordinary out there. I mean, the
I should,
fires, climate change, the pandemic, the economy, the unrest we've seen around the world. It's a
yeah.
very unique time we live in nowadays.
Yeah. For a second, I'd like to roll back to a question that you asked me about, how businesses change. So we normally work with about 4,000 small businesses in a year. We're upwards about 6,700 so far in the last 8 months. We may hit 10,000 in 12 months. That's more than double what we were doing before. And the way that we've done that is we've actually working more closely with groups like the SBA, to get these mentors, these business mentors that provide free consulting service to our businesses. We connected with a group called Start Small, Think Big, which gives free marketing services, free, give you a GoDaddy website for free, give you free financial services, help you rework your loan, give you free legal services, help you deal with your lease. And this has been very different from us. And then the county put forward over $50 million for businesses with 50 employees or less, and really focused on minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. Over 72% of the $50 million went to minority, women, or veteran-owned businesses, which is spectacular for our county. So that, and then helping people get PPP money, over $2 billion in PPP money went to Fairfax County, over $3 billion to all of Northern Virginia. We've had a really wonderful relationship with banks. So we managed to help some of our people get EIDL loans. So all of that's been going on at the same time we've been doing our normal business. And on top of that, we have gotten into this talent recruitment thing. We are so focused on talent. We've been doing these virtual career fairs. We did one focused on college students. And our businesses have been asking for diverse, talented workforce. So I'll just tell you about the first one. I won't go through, we've done 4 of these now. But the first one was in May 28th, right around graduation. We connected with 30 universities, 7 of them historically Black colleges. And we provided almost 1,000 candidates for about 4,000 positions that were being marketed by 13 companies. So that was the first one. And that was a tremendous success.
Just around the country you're doing this? Where are the
Oh,
universities?
well, no, this one was focused on the 60 universities, the 30 universities in, most of these universities were actually right around DC, in the DC region. However, we did reach down to, as far south as the Fuqua School at Duke, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, which is a historically Black colleges to the east. And then in Virginia State, and then we did Howard University, University of DC, and also George Mason University, Virginia Tech, George Washington University, all the usual universities that you hear. But what was so great about that is it laid the framework for the next one that we did, which was really focused on mid-career professionals in technology. This time we had 17 companies, we had over 4,000 positions, and we went after the National Association of Black Engineers, the Society of Hispanic Engineers, Women in Coding, Women That Code, Veterans That Code, Veteran Administration. We went up to police positions. Fire department. It really has been fantastic because it's given my staff something new to add to their portfolio of services that we can provide to companies, because we don't charge the companies anything. We don't charge the people that apply anything. And because there's no cost, it's really just all opportunity. It's one of the few times where opportunity didn't come in dressed up in overalls and look like a lot of work. It's actually is just, a couple of clicks on Zoom, fill out your application, and you're in the chat room.
You expect that to continue post-COVID? You're going to keep
that
yes.
as a definitely.
Part of your toolkit.
Definitely.
That's great.
Yeah.
We got a few questions from the people who are tuning into us. The first, 2 from Terry Kenny. The first, I think, is probably the most important question of the day, and that is, are you wearing your Cubs socks?
As much as possible. And my Cubs hat. I do wear my Cubs hat a lot.
They had a tough playoff. Anyway, Terry also wants to know what's your outlook for getting people back into office space in Tyson's, and what are companies telling you in terms of relocating to this market?
Yeah. So, the fortunate thing, and I mentioned it earlier, we've been doing okay with relocations to the market. We feel good about that. And I think, a lot of people in our region do. And so really the challenge becomes, how do you, make sure you meet their needs? In terms of what I'm hearing from the office users in timing, I'm hearing people talking about really March, a lot of companies June. And what they're doing is depending on what they do for their work, some of them are in the office right now. Like I would tell you right now, a lot of the brokers that I know are in the office right now. A lot of people that are involved in construction. There are a couple of buildings going up in Tyson's right now, and I'll because he asked about Tyson's, I'll focus on Tyson's. You have the Capital One building under construction. Those people are tremendously active. Their real estate team, I've met with them. They're extraordinarily active on site. They're doing virtual permits using FaceTime, and so that's rolling right along. Again, we have another pretty major building going up right at a metro stop in Tyson's. So the construction industry is rolling along. I think a lot of brokers are out there, in the market. Maybe a lot less than before, maybe half, but relative to the other users like our uses, not in the office. We just haven't even gone to the office. We do have 3 or 4 people that go in and out, our ops officer, our technology folks, but it's really to pick up things, drop things off. No one's there, all day, every day. And I think that's typical of Tyson's.
We've got a question from Carl Hairston. What's the impact of COVID on the region's needs and plans to develop more affordable housing?
Well, that's an excellent question. We have, I think not just our jurisdiction, but really all the jurisdictions in our region have decided to set targets. So I think everyone is trying to do their fair share. DC has always, worked very hard to do its fair share. I would say some of the Virginia counties have not so much. I think the greatest example of the real push has been Arlington County. Now everyone's realizing how important it is. And I will tell you something, in the last few years, I've seen it, from Fairfax County, and now I'm up close and personal. They are really serious about it. They've even put together a program, a special incentive program. We don't do a lot of incentives in Fairfax County. Well, but this is a great incentive program where they will abate the increased value of property for up the taxes on increased value of property for up to 10 years. Let me just give you an example. You build a 10 million, you buy a property for $10 million, and it qualifies because you assembled a site. You build on that site $140 million project. $130 million is not taxed for 10 years. And you get 10% of your fees off for building it. So all of a sudden, multifamily makes a lot of sense. We just broke ground on Lake Ann project, 240 units with enterprise communities the other day. I mean, this was just 2 weeks ago. So I think everyone's making the effort now because everyone realizes how important it is. I think it's going to take time for these incentive programs to be matched with financing for these opportunities to work out. But I'm very optimistic about it. I think everything is heading in the right direction. I will tell you, I'm in economic development. I don't do housing development, but I have personally brought 6 major residential developers with portfolios of $2 billion or more throughout the country to the housing department of Fairfax County. I've personally done that. So and my team has seen that. I have 2 people who are volunteered and they're on an affordable housing task force. So I think that people are moving in that direction. We're not quite there yet, but we are leaning that way. You have the, private sector companies like JBG Smith, who did the thing with, another group of investors where they are actually trying to create an instrument, and that Mayor Williams was a big part of that.
City Council, that's right.
Yeah. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I think we still got a lot of work to do. But I mean, we're up for it. We like to work, and we dug.
Yes, we do. So how big a deal is housing when you're recruiting people? Do they talk about the affordability of housing, the availability of housing? Do they talk about transportation? What are you
You know,
hearing from them?
it's so, I'm glad you asked that question because it's sort of like math versus calculus. And the thing about math is pretty straight line. Calculus, you got variables, you don't know quite what the values are, and you got to figure them out. So what happens with our existing companies is it's not a problem. Our existing companies are not complaining about it because they know what the costs are. It's that group, that third that we're pursuing to bring here and to grow here. And they are saying that, some of them are saying, you're a pretty high cost market. But guess who isn't saying that? The companies that we're recruiting from New York or that are growing from New York. They may have a New York presence and they want to put 500 employees down here now. Guess what? They're not complaining about housing. We are cheap. Oh, but the Fairfax, Northern Virginia is like free. That's just free compared to buying something in New York City. I have a friend who bought a place in New York City, and I'm not even going to tell you what the numbers were, but suffice it to say, it was about 3,000 a square foot. 3,000 a square foot. You buy 1,000 square feet, and that'd be 3 million, and this was bigger than 1,000 square feet. But here, you start talking about those numbers, you're getting a palace, you're getting a farm. So it depends on the market. People that come from LA, we have never had a company from California tell us that our residential real estate is too high. And probably the best case, of that was Nestle. Nestle left Glendale, California to move its US headquarters to Arlington County while I was there. And it was interesting. A lot of the workers that we talked to said, wow, your real estate is so cheap. So it depends on where the company's coming from. If they're coming from somewhere in Texas, I doubt it. I doubt if they think that we're cheap. They're coming from somewhere in Georgia and around Atlanta. No, they're complaining about it. They're like, your stuff is too high. And really to solve that, we need to provide more supply. And that's where, these incentive programs come in. That's where, us bringing new investors into the market come in. So the answer is it's important to the conversation, but the importance depends on where the company's coming from.
How about transportation? How does that impact in the conversation?
Well, it's interesting. Before COVID, we heard it a lot.
Yes, we did. We heard it a lot.
It's horrible. Not so much now. As a matter of fact, I think people forgot that we were in such bad shape. I mean, I can drive to my place in DC. I'm in my place in Maryland. I have a place in DC, and I go there usually on the weekends. I stay here during the week because there's more space. So I'm going there, and it takes me. The other day, it took 1 hour. I couldn't do it in an hour and a half to 2 hours before. I can do it in an hour easily. And I think that's what everybody's experiencing right now. So that's not a complaint right now. And by the way, Metro used to be a really strong emphasis. Right now, Metro doesn't look so positive because you come in contact with so many people. As a matter of fact, that's one of the stories about New York right now. Their revenues are down so much because no one wants to get on a train because you can get this exposure, for long periods of time in close quarters. So I think that the transportation question is a little bit tabled for right now, but I do believe it will be something that will come back, especially with everybody buying so many cars. I just heard Anirban Basu. Oh my God, he was talking about the number of cars that have been sold in America. I'm like, oh, that's not good. That's not good for the future. That's not good.
We had Mayor Bowser on Frontline Conversation a while ago, and she said the thing she most likes about what we're going through is that she can get anywhere she needs to in the city within 8 to 10 minutes. So that was never the case and will never be the case again. But that you're right about the transportation. We do have a question from Mahan Tavakoli, our chair, who wants to know about your alliance with your fellow Northern Virginia economic development counterparts and what are the prospects for a regional approach along the same lines.
Mm-hmm. Well, we formed our alliance last September. So we celebrated our first birthday in September, which was fantastic. And we had our first transition of leadership. We're going in alphabetical order. So it started with Alexandria. Now it's with leadership is with Arlington. A couple of us, myself and Stephanie Landrum, serve as kind of the ex officio executive committee members. because we just have a lot of horsepower in our organizations, and it has gone well. I will say this, and look, I'm just gonna look. I don't want to look. We're leaders here. We're all grown up, so I'm just gonna say it like it was. I don't think everybody was as enthused about us being united as an alliance as I had hoped from the beginning. So I would say for the first 5 months, 6 months.
Enthused from the outside or enthused from the members?
Members. They did it. They did it. They did it. But they weren't that enthused. And look, I'm being honest here, and I'll probably get quoted by the newspapers or something. But look, this is what happened. Before COVID, it was convenient. After COVID, it became essential. It is incredible how we're working together now. We're sharing data. We did a webinar series, a 12 installment webinar series. We shared the design of it, the execution of it, the marketing of it, and the cost of it. I mean, that would have never happened had we not had this alliance. It has been magnificent. Just even how we designed our grant programs, the criteria that we use, the forms that we use, we shared everything. It helped us all speed up to a level that we probably wouldn't have reached for months. We were able to do it in weeks. Kind of a quick Delphi method. I mean, it's been amazing. And you know, some of us have a very strong minority business presence and capability, and we shared that with the rest of with the other 9 organizations. So I would say that's going very well now. It's incredible. It's essential. Now let me just slip to the bigger picture.
Victor, when I first heard about it, I thought it was brilliant. I really did. I thought it was long overdue. And congratulations to you, because I just thought that was something that was desperately needed, and it is brilliant.
Yeah, we have a lot of fine leaders. We have a lot of fine leaders, Doug, and they believe, like the leadership Greater Washington, that we're stronger together and that we are an incredible region. And by the way, you want to win the big game, you better have a big team. That's what I tell everybody. You can't win a big game with a little team. It just doesn't work. You know, I'm not going to talk about football teams, but I've seen some little teams go in places and get pretty much slaughtered. So on the larger picture, on the greater DC region, Mahan was asking about this. So the prospects, I think, are very good right now. As with our own alliance, some people are approaching it with trepidation, but the Northern Virginia Development Alliance has contributed to the funding of some research that's underway right now to create a regional economic development strategy. The Maryland Alliance, those 6 counties in Maryland, has also done likewise. We've tapped Ben Wu and Dave Iannucci to be on the steering committee with myself and Stephanie Landrum, and then some other private sector folks from the region. So we are really trying to get to know each other a little bit better, and to see if we can create an operational framework that doesn't cause us to compete. And the thing that we've been talking a lot about is talent, because we all need to be better at placing talent and helping our companies get talent. So that's been a big topic. And then marketing at larger events. So those are the 2 things that seem to be coming together as part of the strategy. But it's going well right now.
And how does the district play a role in all this?
So we're fully expecting that. Well, first of all, the district, like our counties, are actually actively working on the research. Like DC has team members, Montgomery County has team members, Prince George's, a few of the counties in Northern Virginia, and the deputy mayor, as I understand it, is going to be in our next steering committee meeting. He wasn't able to make the first one, but as you know, Doug, the leader has to be in the room, because the leadership does matter. And I'm really looking forward to him joining us, because we can't do this without DC. DC is the center of this region, no matter what people think. And by the way, it has 22 wonderful Smithsonian museums that are free. It has all the coolest places to go to see jazz. Oh, well, some of the coolest places to go to see jazz. Great restaurants. And when we open back up, DC has got to be at the center of this. And boy, you talk about marketing power. You put DC, Northern Virginia, Maryland, the DMV. I love the DMV. I love that phrase, even though some people think it's Department of Motor Vehicles. I love it. I love it. But I think that DC will be right in the center of this.
So we've got a question from Eric Silden, and it's really a future of government question. He wants to know, how might we expect to see government change the way they deliver service to citizens post-COVID. For example, we saw a new tolerance and quick adaptation around elections with mail-in ballots and all that. We're seeing some changes in, to help the restaurant industry, they're allowed to sell liquor to go now. So any other thoughts on how government might change through COVID or post-COVID?
Well, one of the most delightful parts that I've seen is allowing dining on the streets. I got to tell you, when I walk through Georgetown and I see those tables on the streets, I'm going like, okay, Mayor, you're brilliant. I mean, I just think it's fantastic. It's just, she's brilliant. I mean, talk about brilliant. I love that. And because it makes you feel safe. And I think what's going to happen is vestiges of what's going on right now are going to carry over. The whole permit thing, the using technology to do certain permit inspections. That is really effective. We have found that to be extremely effective in our county. And I believe Montgomery County is doing the same thing, and Prince George's County. So we're going to be able to leverage more technology. I'm really expecting that to happen. And I'm also expecting the way that we deliver our services. People now are used to the Zoom format, and we can get more people on this format than we can in a hotel, in the middle of the day. If we can do this, at lunchtime, and no one has any trouble with the commute. They could be right in their office, right at their desk. They don't have to leave. And by the way, have you guys noticed? I don't know if you've noticed this. I have more appointments now than I did pre, and no one's coming to me. It's crushing me. I mean, it's the hardest part of this, but I believe the government's going to change the way it delivers educational services. I think they're going to give more choices to schools and how they learn. I think their best teachers will be leveraged more with technology. I mean, can you imagine the best calculus teacher, the best physics teacher, the best chemistry teacher, online teaching all the kids in all the schools that want to do AP physics or AP calc or AP chemistry? I think that is fantastic. And by the way, if that teacher's in Montgomery County, maybe we could pay Montgomery County a fee to let us use that teacher. I'm just saying the potential for the way that government can interact and work together is totally different. It's just the borders. It's sort of like we've become borderless. It's happened so fast. And by the way, none of us can do anything about it. So the changes are being pushed into the organization, and I think the organizations are responding in the right way. None of it's easy. If you think this is, I don't think any of these changes are going to be easy, but they are going to happen. Did I lose you? I think you froze. Did I freeze?
No, you're still here, Victor.
Okay.
Sorry about that, everyone. Okay. Yep, I think we lost Doug for a second, but that's okay. So maybe he's coming back. There he is.
He's coming back. There he is. There's Doug. You muted. You muted, Doug. Doug, you're muted.
Zoom. The beauty of Zoom, Victor. What do you think? Sorry.
Well, again, not perfect.
But it has changed. I mean, it's changed the way we do business. We did lunches at the Palm. It was, frankly, if you're outside of DC to come to it, it's an hour commute in, an hour and a half for lunch, an hour to commute back. I mean, it's half your day. And now you just click on a 12, click off a 1, and you're good to go. So we're getting a lot more membership, a lot more attendance at our events. Plus, we're getting attendance from people who don't live in the region. I mean, from other countries, from St. Louis, from Atlanta, from Kentucky, from all over, which is really nice to see. So a lot of our members who have moved out of the area are now able to re-engage with us. So we're very pleased with that. I do hope that governments look at or see the benefits of how they've changed the way they deliver service and factor that into things once the vaccine's out and everybody's sort of back to being with each other. But I think that'll be extraordinary. Let me ask a question about leadership lessons you've learned. I loved your comment on focus days and how you're doing that with your staff. Any other leadership lessons you learned over the past few months?
Well, a couple of things. One, you can't communicate too much. That is probably the biggest leadership lesson that I've learned. When you're in a situation like this, you can't reach out enough. And I think that fact that, that they're reaching out and that having a Monday morning meeting where all of us are together and all of us hear the same thing. It's my general staff meeting with all of my international offices on there. Setting that up has been extraordinarily important to keeping our organization cohesive. So communicating frequently, and then actually bringing us all together, hearing the set of messages together frequently. And then once a month, we do a board meeting, and we used to only have 4 or 5 people attend our board meetings. We have 40 to 50 people attend our board meetings now. And it's gone to the point where we now have a speaker series because we want to introduce thought leadership that we couldn't introduce before. So for example, the first speaker was our County Executive Hill, who's implemented a lot of these innovations that I talked about in Fairfax County. And he talked about that, kind of gave people an update on that, the RISE program, the $50 million of small business, all of that. Then we got the new president of George Mason University to speak. He spoke second. He did an extraordinary job. He was unbelievable, talking about his vision for the future and how he wants to see, he sees that tech campus really serving as a pipeline for the entire region, not just for his campuses in Northern Virginia. Then we had Stephen Murray, who's the president and CEO of Virginia Economic Development Partnership, talk about state strategy. And next month, we're gonna have 2 representatives from Amazon, one to talk about HQ2 and one to talk about the greater impact for all of Virginia. So we wouldn't have been able to do that before. And the thing is, it evolved. We didn't think of it. It was really more came as a suggestion, and then that suggestion evolved. So I think that being open to suggestions, more open to suggestions, it's really been a big lesson for me. So communication, being frequent as possible, bringing everybody together to hear one message, and being open. The last thing I would add, and I was doing this before the pandemic, but I've been doing it ever since, is I recommend a book for my team to read, and then we discuss it. The first book I had them read was Blue Ocean Strategy. And then I had them read What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Right now I have them reading the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So we're sharing knowledge. And really, this is for my younger people. My older guys, they're more developed. They know a lot of this stuff. But my younger people, they're loving it. I remember, I introduced them to the classics. When I say classics, How to Make Friends and Influence People. Come on, that's the classic. Carnegie. I mean, can't get more classic than that. My team, none of them had heard of the book. None of the young people had heard of it. So it becomes fresh. Yeah.
Any LGW members that you've reached out to, have reached out to you during the last 8 months?
Oh man, Chuck Bean. I'm in contact with Chuck Bean a lot. He has been fantastic. Rosie Allen Herring is on the steering committee for my task force that's working on the regional economic development strategy. So yeah, I've run into a lot of folks, even though we're doing Zoom, we've been able to work together, and I appreciate that. That's really been wonderful.
Well, Victor, it's been great talking with you. Great conversation. As always, you're just great.
Well, you're very kind.
Mr. Energy, buddy, Mr. Energy. And a wealth of information for us. So thank you so much for being part of LGW's Frontline Conversation. Thank you for all your work for the region. You're excited about where you're headed with this regional look at economic development. I think that clearly will benefit us all. And I will close with giving you the final. I want to thank PNC Bank for being a sponsor of these Frontline Conversations. Thank them very much for that. And I'll give you the last word today, Victor.
That's very kind of you. Well, Oliver Wendell Holmes said, what lies before us and what lies behind us is of a little matter as those things that lie within us. And I have to say, what lies within us is a very, very strong character. And I'm not just talking about our region, I'm talking about our nation. We're used to adversity, and I know we will overcome adversity. I mean, to win World War I, we were building a tank every 4 minutes. We were building a plane every 7 minutes and a ship every day. Look, when we got to pull together as a team, we'll do it. And that's what I see happening right now. Even though it's difficult, even though it's tough, I know we're going to come out this tougher than we were before. Thank you.
What a great way to end, Victor. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And I sure hope to see you soon, in person.
Same here.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, Doug. I miss you.
All right, buddy. Thank you.